What is going on, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 67th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined once again by the host of the award-winning Spawn on Me podcast and all-around awesome dude, Kahlief Adams. How are you doing? You! Just a stud. Love having you on the show. We always get to goof around, have a good time. So always appreciate you coming out. How you doing, man?
Good to see you, brother. It's good. Things are in a good spot. You know, it's been an interesting. I can't even say start to 2022 because it's already feels like it's almost 2023 already. We're already in May. Time is flying at this point. But it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of cool projects in the works, and I get to rock with you on this lovely Saturday. So I'm chilling. Things are great.
Oh yeah, already halfway through the year of our Lord 2022, and that's wild. Weird to hear. It's weird. It feels like we just started this wild adventure, and I don't know. I guess I'm ready for what's next, but also pump the brakes, slow things down here. I'm still trying to catch up with life. All right.
Yeah, I'm chill. I'm not ready yet. Don't get to June. Don't get to August. I had weight loss plans. I'm yo, I can't get cute for summer yet. It's already May. Oh, just too much pressure now.
I know
you got a two-piece.
Got to crunch, work on that beach bod. Get out there and flex it to the world.
Yeah,
Hot boy
man.
Summer, right? Is that what we're shooting for?
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm gonna try to be out there with baby oil on the beach, just be laid out, chilling. Hanging out,
oiled up, greased up, ready to go. Come on,
playing my non-Steam Deck that hasn't gotten to me yet. Anyway.
I know. I've seen Paris out there flexing his Steam Deck. A little late to the game, bro. All right, I had mine for months, and I wasn't out there, flexing it. But whatever.
Jeez.
Different strokes for different folks. We have a great show lined up. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the gaming community, a lot of passionate conversations, especially from the Xbox camp, and this is an Xbox-centric show. So we're going to be talking about a small victory for Xbox in Japan. We are going to be talking about Kojima's increasingly busy video game development schedule. We're going to be talking about the games we are excited about in 2022. I know delays and, the empty slate has permeated the discourse, but I want to spend a little time talking about the games that are hopefully coming in 2022. The community's burning questions. I took to Twitter, asked you guys what your burning questions regarding Xbox were, so we're going to dive into some of those towards the tail end of the show. But first, let the amazing folks here know who you are and where they can find you.
So you can find my work in multiple places. I run the Spawn on Me podcast. We've been playing around in the video game space and in the podcasting space for almost 10 years now. I like to call us the premier podcast spotlighting people of color in the video game industry. So you can usually check that stuff out on any podcast platform that you're on. That usually will drop on Mondays. We moved to a new day on Mondays. So you'll get a new show every Monday morning. And you can check us out when we do our live show at twitch.tv/spawnonme. I'm also hosting a show called The People's Pregame that is actually airing right now on NBCLX and Peacock TV. It's all about the Fan Control Football League. So we're doing the pregame, getting you ready for the season and for the week's games. And then, I'm doing all the things hosting that I can possibly do all over the place. I've had some appearances on MinMax. I was on Kind of Funny yesterday. A bunch of stuff all over the place. So you will get some of me somewhere if you're looking for it.
Yes. If you guys haven't checked out Kahlief, amazing dude. Love him. As he just described, incredibly busy. Shout outs to Kahlief. NBC, major network player out here. Love to see that. Stoked to see you out more places and stoked to have you on the show today. Some housekeeping before we get into the main topics. If you have been on WindowsCentral.com recently, you might have noticed a little makeover. So as we have been, merged in with our parent company, Future, we have merged our website layout. So things are different. Unfortunately, comments are gone, which is a big complaint from a lot of folks. So I wanted to address that for the folks who've engaged with our website in that way and dropped comments. Those are no longer there, but we invite you to join the Windows Central Discord where you can comment and at all of us on there. All of the staff are there. And so if you have questions, concerns, comments about what we're doing there, join our Discord. The link is in the description of this video here. Also, if you are listening to the audio version of the show, and you are enjoying the audio version of the show, be sure to take a second to leave us a review. If you're watching live on youtube.com/Windows Central Gaming, like it, drop a comment, share it, all that great stuff. Feed the algorithm, feed the beast. You know how it goes. You know what it is. I gotta say it. So here we are. All right, Kahlief, the first thing I want to dive into today is an interesting little nugget that popped up earlier this week from Famitsu. And Famitsu was reporting that Xbox outsold PlayStation in Japan for the first time in 8 years. And so there's been a lot of passionate back and forth regarding this. You've had people use that to say that Xbox is, finally making it in Japan. Then you've had people on the other side saying, well, they're still losing by a lot in Japan, and this is just a fluke, blah, blah, blah. Regardless of where you stand on the situation, it's undoubtedly an interesting little piece of data. So let me drop the actual figures here so we have those before we dive into the conversation. Xbox Series S sold about 6,000 units. The Xbox Series X sold about 100 units. And the PS5, both SKUs, sold 2,600 units. So this particular week, Xbox doubled the sales of PlayStation in Japan. So when you saw these headlines popping up earlier this week, how did you feel? What was your gut reaction to this news?
Well, the first thing I thought was, take that, Sony ponies. Now what you gonna say? Now what you gonna do?
Take
your team
the
is
L.
losing in your home country. Wow. Take that. Take that. No. I just was like, that's awesome. Like, that's cool for, Xbox to get to, tip their hat to the numbers for a quick second. We know that they have been not doing well for almost every generation that they have been in the game. In Japan, so it is nice for them to get a small win. It's like if you're watching a 7-game basketball series and you're like, hey, you won game 2. You won that one game on the opponent's home floor, right? Like, pump your fist, run out of the arena really quickly, take that win, jump on the plane, and then go home. It's like, it's a good anecdote for the folks who are like really entrenched in the fandom to be, to say that out loud. I don't think it's a thing that you'll see Microsoft PR put out anything about, or, make some marketing, content around it, because it is a blip over the past almost 20 years of time that they've been trying to get inroads into the market. I will say this though, I think that the actual pull from this layer of discourse and conversation really reflects really well on Xbox if you think about their strategies towards cloud, which I think is actually the meat of this conversation. Like, yes, they're doing well in the hardware sales, but even if they don't, they now have an even better positioning than they've ever had in terms of being able to penetrate that market, because they have doubled down on cloud and mobile in terms of you being able to play certain games within that space. I don't know how you quantify that in a way that makes sense, that if you did want to kind of pull that into a marketing conversation to be able to kind of push that out there, how you would kind of make that the case. But it's great for them to be able to say that one thing. I did get blasted on Twitter because I said, good job, Xbox, congratulations. And somebody was like, you do know this is only because there's a shortage of chips on the market. And I was like, you do understand that we're gonna be behind on chips for another 2 to 3 years, right? So these conversations that you're trying to pull in as angles to kind of deflate the small win that was there is just people trying to pee in your cereal. It's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. So.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that, unfortunately. And again, a lot of people were just looking at this as an interesting nugget of Xbox centric information. Again, it's not definitive of anything per se, but regardless, when you have that success for the first time in a long time, like I said, 8 years. 8 years is a long time to not get a win. So when you get a win, it's worth talking about, especially, Windows Central. Jez and I have been very vocal about Xbox in Japan, their struggles with growing the platform in Japan, the struggles with selling Japanese developers on the platform. And so little pieces like that when you can show developers, when you can show folks in Japan that you have some kind of momentum, that does mean something. And that is interesting to look at, because we can look at the Xbox One sales in Japan and we can say they went an entire generation and they sold like 100 and some thousand. Not an impressive milestone at all. And we're already past that. We were already past that basically a year after launch. So clearly there is some kind of turnaround happening in Japan. And if we keep getting little wins like this, we can start to paint a broader picture of what that means for Xbox in Japan. Some interesting data here that we have for this particular week. The Series S selling far and away, way more than the Xbox Series X. And again, we'll get into the boring realities at the back end of this here. But what I want to talk about is, do you think there's any specific reasons why the Series S in particular is kind of blowing away the Xbox Series X sales in Japan?
The weird thing, when that stat came up, or at least that layer of conversation came up, the first thing I thought was, and again, folks who are Japanophiles, or folks who have been, because I've never been to Japan, so I'm saying this with a huge grain of salt of what I've seen of the country, has been like space matters when it comes to stuff like that, right? Like being able to have a full console in a space when you don't have a lot of space, it would be the kind of better form factor. We know the X is a big machine, right? In terms of footprint, it is a large machine. So I'm thinking maybe that's one of the reasons, is like small form factor gives you, less space to have to worry about maneuvering around it, and it might make just for a kind of nice package for you to be able to have in terms of getting that game console into wherever you're living as a potential part of that. Also, it could be just like, it's a cooler color than just the black color, like it could just be that. It's like, it looks nice, the aesthetics are nice in that respect. So it would be really cool to see, like, if there's a way to drill down, like if they do that research to figure out like what it was during that moment. Is it really just the chip shortage? Is it the fact that people in Japan can't find PS5s in that way, so they're like, I want to play something, so let me jump over here? Or it could be like, maybe there's some stuff in the catalog too that makes it like, this is my entry machine if I did want some hardware to be able to kind of get into the game. So I would love to know if Xbox folks are digging down into those numbers, because I'm sure that they are.
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to figure out, any sort of trends or data that they can lean into to keep that momentum going. We have seen anecdotally, users from Japan on Twitter have talked about the size, as you mentioned, being a cool selling point for them. It's small, it's convenient, they can fit it in their space. What I really think is the main driver for success is the value proposition of the current Xbox strategy. You have the Xbox Series S console at $300, and you have Xbox Game Pass. So if you are someone who, if we're talking about Japan historically, chances are you weren't that invested in Xbox. Let's just be brutally honest. The majority of people who play video games in Japan were not invested in Xbox. So now that Xbox has some momentum, now that they have this compelling service with Game Pass, now that they have a $300 console, you're probably looking at that and saying, well, I can get invested in the Xbox ecosystem for like $315. So that is huge, to be able to say that I can play games online, I can have this huge catalog of Xbox games, I can look forward to more stuff coming to Xbox Game Pass, and the barrier to entry there is $315. I always use my PlayStation 5 experience, because it cost me about $600 to play Demon Souls at launch.
Yep.
So that is a huge barrier there. A lot of people try to downplay and say, oh, well, gaming is an expensive hobby, and if you can't afford it, then don't play it. And sure, gaming is expensive in a lot of ways, but what's really exciting about Xbox right now is they're saying, maybe it doesn't have to be as expensive. Maybe there are ways we can offset that, get more people invested. And again, I've had a lot of people who gave up on gaming for a long time get back in because they can pay $10, $15 a month and play video games with their friends. And that has so much weight. So I am curious to see if what the factors officially are. And I am curious to see what Japan looks like in a year. Now that we have Xbox publishing in Japan, kind of teasing some of the big projects, like once those big projects are revealed, I want to see if they make a difference, because a lot of people don't understand the value of those IP in Japan. The Xbox 360 was incredibly successful in Japan compared to the original Xbox, because they had Lost Odyssey, they had Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive was humongous in Japan. That was a huge adoption driver for the Xbox 360 in Japan, and that was an exclusive. So if Xbox can get back into having those compelling exclusives for a Japanese audience, I think that growth is only going to continue, because so far, if we're looking at the Xbox Series X and S generation, not a ton of Japanese exclusives to point to, and it still has success and momentum. So I'm curious to see what we look like in a year.
Yeah, that'll be telling for sure.
The boring official stuff to talk about. Yes, chip shortage, obviously a factor. Yes, Xbox is still losing by a lot compared to PlayStation and console sales in Japan. Yes, this was a slow week in general in console sales in Japan. All of those boring things, but it is still worth having those conversations and talking about, a little W. Sometimes people just need a pat on the back. Even big or small, sometimes you just got to give them a little pat on the back. That's all.
Take that, Sony ponies. What you going to do now? Sony ponies?
PlayStation is losing Japan?
Wow. Take that L to your hard drive.
And the sad thing is, I saw takes like that on Twitter. I'm like, come on, guys.
I saw so many people who were doing that, and then all the Sony fans were so tight for no reason. I was like, you're so tight. This got to you so hard, and it's just again, stop doing that nonsense. It's stupid.
We can have the conversations, and it doesn't have to be this definitive. This person won. This person lost.
You know who's winning? The stock owners. None of you are winning. None of us are winning. You're all the stock price. The stockholders are winning.
We're winning because we get great games at a great value.
Yeah. Clip that somewhere. Put that into. I love you, Miles.
I love you too, man. I always have a great time with you on here.
I appreciate you so much.
Before we dive into our next topic here, quick shout out to the amazing people joining us live. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. Let's get this party going. I'm going to get to a couple super chats here. Jonas the Dad says, Xbox must do better. They must crush the June show. We're going to be talking all about that here in a little bit. We're going to be diving into the June show, what Xbox needs to do, and how Xbox can maybe fill some of the gaps in their seemingly empty schedule for the year 2022. Super chat here from Gold Shell. Miles, thanks for playing with us last weekend. Our 4v4 Fiesta and big team battle against Jeff Grubb was a blast. You killed it, bro. Go Battle Shrimp. I have some sad news to report. If you listened last week, I was talking a lot of trash about Jeff Grubb and the Games Mess Discord because we had our big Halo showdown. And it was
how did I miss this? What?
Windows Central Discord versus the Games Mess Discord. Jeff Grubb was streaming it on his Twitch. We lost. It was a 7-game series, and
what?
We're talking about the one W. That was us. I hate to report that we of that best of 7, we got 1 W.
You were the Xbox Series X S of that tournament?
Yeah. So I got to say, my performance, pretty stellar. I got a great clip of me destroying Jeff Grubb, teabagging on his corpse. So that's online. I also have a screenshot on my Twitter feed of Jeff Grubb playing a big team battle match up to 100 kills where the man got 0 points. 0. How do you do that?
How?
0. I'm not even exaggerating. 0 points, 0 kills, 0 points across the board. Jeff Grubb was not carrying his team. So I got to say, even though they won, I am claiming the victory over Jeff Grubb. And there is definitive proof that I am, in fact, better at Halo than Jeff Grubb. And that's, for me, that's all I needed out of this whole thing. So
take that, Jeff Grubb ponies. Take that. Take that, Jeff Grubb ponies. What are you going to do now? You lost on your home turf.
Take the L, Jeff. But no.
Really? He got no kill. Oh, Jeff. What? Jeff.
We got photographic evidence, and it just warmed my soul. Because he was, we were both talking a big game. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't, dishing out more than we delivered on. Because like I said, we got clapped pretty hard. So no downplaying that. The Windows Central Discord got clapped. But I think, this is just a tinfoil hat. Take this with a grain of salt. I think Jeff Grubb hired competitive Halo players.
Wow.
I think he went outside of the Discord, paid competitive players, because there are people on their team getting 30 kills.
Oh,
30
they're on.
kills in a match. I'm like, come
That
on
smells like
now.
performance enhancing drugs. That's what that smells
So
like. That
again,
sounds like
take
that.
it with a grain of salt. You know, maybe that's completely unfounded, or maybe Jeff Grubb's a big cheater. I'll leave it up to you to decide.
If you ever need a sub, I'm down to jump in on Team Windows
Okay,
Central
good.
to help
Because
you out.
we're having a rematch. This is not the end of the saga. Because I don't end on an L. You know, I'm one of those people who will play all night, losing 10 times in a row to get that W, to end on that high. All right,
And then turn the console off and then go to
and
sleep.
then just thank God, oh God, I can sleep.
I'm not 0 for 0. I'm out of here. I won.
Super chat from Nick W says, "Hi guys, I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. Do you guys think Xbox should add achievements to original Xbox games?" Yeah, let's dive into that real quick. That actually wasn't a
Yeah.
topic I have on the docket, but
Great question.
it's come out this week that PlayStation is adding trophy support to PlayStation 1 games with the rollout of this new PS Plus service. And I thought that was really cool, really interesting. This isn't the first time we've seen them do that. They did that with PS2 games on PS4, but to see them kind of continue to innovate and evolve the trophy system and add support to previous games is genuinely cool to see. Because there's a ton of games that I really just want any reason to go back and play outside of just playing it. So if they added achievements to, let's say, Blinks the Time Sweeper or whatever it might be, and I had an incentive to go back and kind of earn some of those, I would totally do it. So me personally, yes, 100% I would love to see that. Do you care? Does that matter to you?
I don't care about achievements or trophies anymore, but I do think that would be a fun, smart thing for them to do. I think it just adds some longevity to stuff, and especially for folks who are like chasing gamer score still. It's a nice thing to be able to kind of pad your number in a lot of different ways. So yeah, that would be cool. I'd appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's again not a huge deal for a lot of people, and I think Xbox must have data that suggests it's not a huge deal for a ton of people. But it is interesting that Xbox came out and they created the achievement system and they set this kind of gold standard for achievements in the industry. PlayStation liked it. They implemented it with the PS3, and then since then it seems like it's kind of been PlayStation who's been spearheading a lot of these advancements and changes to it. So, you know, a lot of legacy Xbox fans in particular have been very vocal about achievements. Randall Thor, friend of the show,
Yeah.
he loves himself some achievements, but he's a little burnt out because he feels like it, you know, it doesn't really matter as much anymore, and they haven't really innovated their achievement system in a way that's impactful. So I would love
They've
to.
never innovated the gamer score, the achievement system. Let's be honest about that. Like for
They
real,
added
y'all.
rare achievements. That's
No, but
something.
your number does nothing. Your
Yeah.
number doesn't do anything. The one thing I had hoped for Microsoft and Xbox to do at some point was to give you a way to convert your gamer score into something. Something you can get, something that would be worth kind of showing off, but the number is the number and that's it. It doesn't do anything else. So I still think that's a missed opportunity for Xbox to kind of pull something in on that.
Remember the limited Avatar awards? Remember playing
Yeah.
Left 4 Dead 2 and getting like sneakers and
Yeah,
little
like that
virtual
stuff was
T-shirts?
dope.
Yeah, come
That stuff
on.
was dope, and they've left all that stuff to the wayside. I'm sad about that.
There was
So,
like
anywho.
what 4 or 5 games that did it, and it was just gone forever. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yep. Yep.
that's a conversation for another day. But there's a lot of areas where Xbox has done something cool very briefly and then just moved on with life as if it never happened. So
Yeah, they were like, bye. Thanks.
long and short of it, yes, it would be awesome if Xbox went back, added achievement support to legacy titles. I think that would be really cool, and especially for legacy Xbox fans, the people who chances are going back and playing those OG Xbox titles, that would be a huge incentive to.
And really quickly, I have to address Master Jazz 09 says, Microsoft Awards, are you kidding?
Microsoft Awards. I mean, you do get points for achievements. Technically, you get 50 points per day that you get an achievement, and if you go through that, so the Microsoft reward system is great because you're literally in a lot of cases getting paid money to play video games, which is cool, which is something. That being said, I want more.
I don't think it's yeah. I'm not going to double down on that argument because I think that if you were going to give me something if you were going to tie something that is so integral to your platform and you hide the cool thing that you wind up getting, I don't think you can tout that as an achievement. I don't think that's the thing that you can tout as, hey, this is a thing that we should all be talking about, or this is a cool thing. Like that thing, you have to jump through at least a couple of weird hoops to make it actually worth it. And the stuff that you get isn't that great. I'm just saying. But
Yeah,
I appreciate Master Jazz's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the rewards is a cool system in general, and there are, if you're someone who really invests in it, you can get some returns on that. I'd see people who have like hundreds of thousands of points on there, and they just really go through, chase all of the challenges, chase all of the weeklies, the dailies, all of that stuff. And if you want to do that, cool. That is cool. That being said, I would love to just be able to play a game and have more tangible rewards outside of.
Agreed.
Don't get me wrong, I like Bing, but I don't want to have to search 100 different terms in a week to be able to get my rewards on Xbox for the week.
This is my point.
No, don't get me wrong. You sold me. I converted my default browser to Bing. Are you happy now? Is that what you want? I know that's what you wanted, but
like what? Okay. Anyway.
And the Master Jazz, one more thing to touch on there. Useless trophies. I think obviously there is a greater sense of accomplishment with the Platinum Trophy crew. A lot of the people on PlayStation tout the Platinum Trophies. They yell about the Platinum Trophy. So even though it is, you could say like gamer score meaningless, that number just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I think having that tangible thing that says you did all of this and here it is. Again, it's not tangible per se, because it is just a number, but there's a number with at least an icon next to it. When I look at my gamer score, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, I'm just like, I don't really.
And it's just like, oh, okay. Like I did this amount of work to get this amount of a number, but it doesn't quantify a lot of different stuff. PlayStation did a really smart job in terms of giving you something that is easy to correlate to you doing something in a cool fashion, right? Like you have the gold, the bronze, and the platinum. So I think there's a conversation there about like how that system was brought out and how it actually affects the way you think about your gaming prowess.
Yeah.
But that's for another time for sure.
Exactly. All right. So next big topic of the show are the big games coming in 2022. Towards the back end of the show, we're going to be talking about the Xbox kind of delays. We're going to be talking about what to expect from Xbox. We're going to be talking about what we want to see from Xbox. But before we do that, I want to spend some time ignoring the obvious delays of Redfall and Starfield. I want to talk about the other games that are coming out, because there's been a lot of pessimism, especially in the Xbox camp, about the slate for 2022. And if we are talking about first party only, yes, there are. Right now, on paper, there's not much to look forward to first party. That being said, in general, there's a huge number of games coming out this year that I'm incredibly excited about, pending any future delays, because in this day and age, nothing is official until it's official. So I'm cautiously optimistic with all of these release dates and release windows. So what are the games you are most excited about right now that are potentially, or at least currently scheduled to come out in 2022?
I mean, I'm probably looking at the delays of Starfield and Redfall. Like, I'm gonna be playing a crap ton of Evil Dead. Yeah, that's gonna be a big thing. I'm loving that game a bunch. I'm super excited for 2K's The Quarry. I love that Man of Medan series. As a horror fan, I'm hyped for that kind of stuff in that way. Rumbleverse is supposed to drop, I think, before the end of the year. I may be wrong about that, but I think they're supposed to be going before the end of the year. Saints Row is supposed to drop. So the new Saints Row is supposed to drop. So like, I still think that there's stuff that, and again, I'm like playing like a crap ton of Rogue Legacy 2 right now. Like that's the game that is keeping me turning on my machine at this point and playing a bunch of that. So like, there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of coming through that's going to kind of hopefully take the spot for what I want to play on the console. But like, I thought at first I was like, oh man, there's nothing dropping. And I was like, oh no, there's some bangers still kind of coming through. Of course, they're multi-platform, but it is a thing to be able to play and say like, I'm going to have fun with it for sure.
Yeah. So one final question here with all this. Are there any upcoming releases you think folks are really sleeping on? Because I sat down the other day and I made a list of all of the games that I'm super excited about and just generally excited about in the rest of the year. And the list ended up being way, way more comprehensive than I originally expected. Because, like you, I was like, yeah, I guess there's not a ton of really big games I'm excited about this year. And then I really sat down and looked at the calendar and I was like, wait a second, there's a lot coming out this year.
Yeah.
So anything that you think folks are sleeping on right now that they should have a stronger eye on?
Saints Row. I think a lot of folks actually are not that excited for Saints Row, and I don't know why. Like I think of the games that I have seen some footage of and got a chance to kind of like we haven't had a chance to play any of it yet, but I think that when I'm thinking about what's going to get me to those bigger games while we are in that longer stretch, I want something that's going to be, long. I want something that's going to kind of be expensive. I want something that's going to just like take my mind off of the grind. So I'm hyped for that game. I think that game is going to be pretty dope. And I'm hoping that we're going to get people who are going to want to run through that and play it and just enjoy for what that wacky, nonsensical game is going to wind up being. Yeah. So Saints Row.
I tweeted this at you, but the more I see of Saints Row, the more I realize how much I've missed that series.
Yeah.
Because the original on Xbox 360, that set the gold standard of ragdoll for me. I remember playing that, and I remember like thinking it was just a cheap Saints or Grand Theft Auto knockoff when it came out. I didn't really get it. I was like, they're just ripping off Grand Theft Auto. But then I played and like, no, they're not ripping off Grand Theft Auto. They're parodying the parody that is Grand Theft Auto, and they are taking the open world formula and just blowing it up, making it as dumb, as ridiculous as it can possibly be. And that's always been the vibe of Saints Row, and I've always loved that. And then it got to a point where we were getting too many games too fast, and I just got a little tired of it. But now that it's been several years, and now that we've started to see some gameplay, it makes me realize that, yeah, this is going to be what I love about Saints Row. That infamous clip that's going around where the dude's driving a car, smashes into a wall, blasts through the windshield in a wingsuit, flies through this wingsuit, lands on a dude's head, jumps off his head, and keeps gliding on the wingsuit. Like, yes. Hell yes. Give me that, and I will be so happy to play Saints Row.
So good. Like, there are so many fun moments. I remember that one Kanye scene. I think it was in Saints Row 2 or 3. And they started to play the song Power, and I was like, this is what video games could be if you really mash up really cool stuff that's happening in the moment. So it was nice to be able to kind of, have that space for games like that. So yeah, I think multiverses
Yeah,
is
you've been playing it. I want to hear about it because I haven't got my hands on it yet.
It's so good. It plays
Yes.
off of all that fun nostalgia that you have mixed up with all those, iconic characters in the cartoon universes and comic universes. And it just feels like the most competent kind of, Smash clone that I've played in a while. Like mixing those two factors together and giving you like all those little like fun small touches. My Tasmanian devil is a monster right now. Don't come see me because I will rock your face with my Taz. But yeah, it's feeling good. I'm excited to see how they expand on it. I think they've done some really smart things with their kind of like a badge system, their kind of perks system. And it's going to be really cool to see if they get a chance to like really get an audience that comes to it. I think that's the hard part. Games like that, you always worry about like, is this going to be a thing that has any staying power? Are the fighting game community going to come to it? And so far, from what I've seen from the folks that I follow in the fighting game spaces, like a lot of them are excited about it. So that's a good sign that folks are hyped about it for sure.
Yeah, you want the fighting game community to latch onto it because regardless of how good the game is, if the audience doesn't connect with it, especially if you're an online centric game like this, as matchmaking times dwindle, all of that sad stuff, the audience will kind of go with it. So
yeah,
I've seen a lot of very positive feedback surrounding the Multiverses beta from this past weekend, and that has me so excited. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I will confidently say, is the greatest fighting game of all time. You cannot point any fighting game to me and tell me that it's better than Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in my eyes. So I've been banging the drum that, Xbox needs to step up. They need to get in that space. Give me the Xbox platform fighter. But we've seen other folks like Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which came out of the gate a little weak. Great foundation. buggy launch and kind of a slower rollout of content has kind of impacted that player base. So if Multiversus is going to come out, I hope it's a little bit more consistent in that regard. Because yeah, if it feels good, if you give me some dumb characters and you let me get weird with this stupid crossover fighting game, I'll play it, and I'll play a lot of it.
Then you got it. That's what that game is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is. What are you looking forward to coming down the pipe?
So as I've been going through and kind of working on this list here, I have realized that 2022 it's the year of horror. I'm a huge horror fan. You're a huge horror fan, and the amount of great horror games that have dropped are going to drop potentially in 2022. Oh, it's got me feeling so good. We just got Evil Dead the game. I have put 44 hours, I think, in Evil Dead the game already since launch. I've been going hard. The gameplay loop is so good. If you love MOBAs, if you're someone like me who's played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Smite, you'll connect with it. It's the gameplay loop is deep. You'll need probably a tight squad if you want to win as the survivor. But if you just want to be a solo demon and just absolutely troll people, being the demon in this feels so good. They let you do so many stupid things like possessing a car, slamming into people, possessing a survivor and running in the opposite direction, firing their gun in the air and just wasting all of their ammo. Like, you can be an absolute asshole in this game. And it's everything that I love about Evil Dead. So been playing a lot of that. Really cannot recommend that enough if you like multiplayer. We got The Quarry, as you touched on. That's dropping in June, so that's coming really, really soon, couple weeks away. We got Callisto Protocol, which is on the cover of Game Informer, and that is, it sounds like that is supposed to be dropping in 2022 as well. The Dead Space spiritual successor. We got Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, which is an asymmetrical ghost hunting game. We got Sons of the Forest, another multiplayer horror game. We got Scorn. We got Atomic Heart. We got A Plague Tale Requiem, which I don't know if it'll be horror per se, but the first one in particular had some horror moments for sure.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know that that's coming in 2022. There's been sites that have been kind of alluding to that, but I don't know that that's the reality. But if that does, that is another one. And that's ignoring stuff like Saints Row and all these games outside of the horror genre that I'm excited about. That's ignoring stuff like, Martha's Dead that's already dropped. Elden Ring. I mean, if you've played Elden Ring all the way through, that's got some horror in it. So for me, this year, as much as the delays of Redfall and Starfield are a huge bummer, we're living in a timeline where I got to play Elden Ring and Evil Dead the game in 2022, and both of them are absolute slappers. And that is just, I really can't ask for anything else this year. Like, if nothing else, if not a single game dropped at this point, I could look back at 2022 and say, this was a damn good year in gaming.
Yeah, I can't lie on that. Have you seen? I'm gonna get really nerdy about horror for a quick second.
Oh,
have you seen The Sadness yet?
No, that's a Shudder exclusive though.
The Shudder exclusive, The Sadness. It is amazingly, extremely gory. It's probably one of the goriest movies I've seen in a long time. So if you're a gore fan, then this movie is absolutely for you. It is messed up, and usually as a person who loves that stuff, I don't say things are messed up. This movie's messed up. But
okay.
Yeah. So my question for you was, as fans of horror, and we're seeing this really big leap in technology. I think a lot of folks have really been excited about the jump from Unreal 4 to 5. We're seeing a lot of cool stuff come out from that stuff. Do you think that horror games are going to get gorier when more folks adopt Unreal Engine 5? Again, this is super off topic, so we don't have to stay on it long. But I would just love to get your quick thoughts on that.
Yes. One of the biggest advancements I think we're going to see this generation is physics. And that, I think, has been the biggest limitation when it comes to horror and gore in particular. I remember the tech demos of Gears of War with the wall of meat. The infamous Unreal, I think it was 4 demo, where they just had a dude with a lancer just blasting off chunks of meat from this wall to showcase their quote-unquote gore engine. So as physics improve, one of the things I love about Evil Dead, not Unreal Engine 5, but you can disembowel the enemies and their intestines are hanging out, and their intestines have physics, so you can see all the individual intestines swinging left and right. They have a skeleton underneath their meat, so you can blow off chunks of their face and you'll see their skeleton underneath. You can blow off chunks of their arm and they'll just have flesh hanging there with the skeleton underneath. Like, those are the advancements that I want to see. Like, extreme as it might be for a lot of people, because people do, as gore gets more realistic, and as you are the one kind of projecting this gore onto someone else in a lot of cases, I think that's going to make more and more people a little bit uncomfortable. But as a big fan of horror and as a big fan of gore, let's go. I want that big showcase that says, like, this is the human anatomy. Here is a fully detailed human. All of the organs are there. All of the organs are accurate. And we're going to let you just completely destroy that. And you're going to see it. And as gross as it's going to be, that's standing ovation material. The first game that comes out and says that, let's go.
I'm waiting. I'm hoping that it's going to be one of those things that I didn't think about that until we started this conversation. I'm like, I may have to write something about that, because I think that's a really interesting space. No one has done it yet. Everyone has been afraid of getting an AO rating, because that just kills your sales for anything. But I would love to see somebody just say F it and just do it. Just make the AO game.
Now you get me excited. Yeah, that's why I love having you on, because we can geek out about horror. We can talk about all these weird possibilities. I want somebody to get a bag. I want somebody to get a big budget to sit down and come up with that engine. And I want that engine to be the gold standard for, like, imagine a Resident Evil game where you're blasting out, it blasts a zombie in the stomach and all their organs just spatter out into the floor.
Oh, it'll be so good. Anyway, we're weirdos, but it's great.
Exactly. A lot of people are now like, oh my God. These people are depraved. What's wrong
with you two?
Y'all need Jesus.
Legislation right now.
Oh man, quick shout out to all the amazing people hanging out, listening about gore physics, listening about our sick, disturbing dreams for the future of video games. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. I'm gonna get to some super chats before we dive into our next topic here. Sergeant Rake says, all the best to Ka and Miles on this fine Saturday. Kahlief, you're more than welcome to join us for the next Halo tourney. Be rad to have you.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's
do it.
Let's do it. That rematch is coming, dude. All right, Jeff, if you're listening, know that I will embarrass you more than I embarrassed you the last match. All right, if that's possible, if we can even do that. Silent Cypher says, shout out to the GOAT and the amazing Kahlief Adams. You are absolute legends. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone who tunes into the show. I always talk about it. It's weird that anyone cares about what we talk about when it comes to video games. The fact that anyone wants to tune in and hang out with us, absolutely mind-blowing to me. So anyone listening to this, they're the real legends, all right?
Yes, seriously, no doubt.
Christopher Jetzer. Miles, have you heard anything about Madison? I think it's a PC horror game, console as well. Cool to see you on Defining Duke this week. Madison, have you heard of that, Kahlief? I haven't.
No, I have not. That sounds really dope, though.
I'm gonna have to put that on my radar, do some digging to see. And thanks for checking me out. I got to hang out with Lord Cognito and Mr. Matty Plays on Defining Duke this week. Love those gents. We had a lot of fun talking about their show. It's a little spicier than mine with the community write-ins, so we got to talk about a lot of the juicy drama of the past few weeks. So I had a great time with those dudes. All right. We got to talk about the Xbox gap in 2022. It's going to be a conversation that's going to kind of permeate the discourse until Xbox's showcase, I think. Until Xbox comes out and proves to its audience, and a lot of people who are pessimistic about the future of Xbox, that the near future of Xbox is exciting. These conversations are going to dominate the Xbox community. And despite my optimism about the future and this year in particular, I think if you are someone who only has an Xbox or primarily plays on Xbox, it is fair to say that, it's fair to be disappointed in the slate, because especially if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber and one of the main reasons you bought into Xbox Game Pass was for the exclusive content, you can say, I'm not getting enough of that this year. And I don't think that's unfair to say. And I'm not going to fault anyone for being upset about that. So I have a few specific questions regarding Xbox in 2022 for you and then the audience here as well. What currently are your expectations for the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase in just a couple of weeks?
Ooh, that's a hard one, because to be fair, like, the showcase has been really interesting because they've been really tight-lipped on what they're going to be showing, right? I think everyone had the expectation that because it was going to be a Bethesda adjacent or Bethesda a shared conference or showcase, that we were going to start to finally see some Starfield stuff. Um, I kind of am at a loss, to be honest. I don't know what they're going to show that's going to be either really new, or are they going to come out with some remakes maybe? Like maybe they dig into the bag and see if there's some old stuff that they've been working on to kind of fill that gap that was supposed to maybe come out a little bit later, but now they're going to move that stuff up. You know, I was talking about this on Xcast yesterday about like, so what franchises do we see that may potentially or deserve another go around, right? So like, we have not seen anything about a Prey 2. Like that's not been a thing. I think folks are kind of tired of Dishonored for a bit. Like I think Dishonored needs to kind of sit for a minute and not anymore. If they show another version of Skyrim, everyone is going to throw up across the universe. They'll be like, "We hate this. Stop putting and giving us more Skyrim." But I do think, you know, the thing that I'm hoping that they will do, because they don't have to show us full gameplay per se, but I do think that even though they have this about 9 month gap now at this point before we get to Q1 of 2023, they can show something that is in game at this point. Because you're not at the point where you're still in alpha or beta. You're in the final polishing phases at this point. You're past that part. You're at a showable level. It may not be exactly what you want to show, but I think you can show something that is in-game assets. I think at least that will get you through to the end of the year without people wanting to get the pitchforks ready and that kind of stuff. So I think for me, that's what I'm hoping to see, is like, show me something of that game at this point. Like, I'm tired of seeing logos. I'm tired of seeing concept art. I'm tired of seeing the full, you know, trailer that you got out there, all that stuff. Like, show me something that's in game. Just somebody walking and like looking at the world so I can see how big it is and what the kind of does it. The biggest question is, what does the new engine look like? I think that's the conversation. That's the thing that anybody who really is thinking about Bethesda in this game, that's the thing they actually are worried and care about, is like, what does the new engine look like? Does it look like the old engine? And if it does, no one's going to want to play it. So that's a long answer to a very short question of that basically wraps up with, I don't know.
Yeah, I still think that Starfield and Redfall will be big components of this show. Because even with the delays, I imagine they have something that they can show fans in terms of gameplay. Maybe it's not the super deep dive we were expecting originally. Maybe it's not the big 20-minute blowout that we were expecting. But I would personally be shocked if we didn't get a decent amount of gameplay for Starfield and Redfall at the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase. I think that would only amplify the concerns regarding the reports that Starfield is, quote, you know, the next Cyberpunk or whatever the report from Bloomberg was. People have a lot of pessimism right now, and Xbox, I think, understands what they need to do to deliver for fans who, even before these delays, a lot of people in the community, a lot of Xbox critics were saying, yo, I need to see these games. Like, I'm really tired of you talking about these games. I need to see these games. Obviously, the nuance and reality is, you know, game development takes a long time, blah, blah, blah. For some people, that is not enough. They don't want to hear that anymore, regardless of what the reality is. So like you said, even if we're not getting gameplay deep dives, I hope we see something for Everwild. Like, because that's another one of those games. Officially, we know it's coming. We've seen some CG reveals, and then there have been reports saying that's in, quote, development hell. A good way to tell your audience and tell the world that no, this isn't the case, is to give us a panning shot of some environments. Give us a little walkthrough, first-person camera, just sprawling through some nature sceneries, some animals. Give us a little bite of this world and show us that, yeah, you know, the game is coming along. We're still working on, you know, finalizing it, having the big gameplay reveal ready, but there is progress to be shown. And I think, again, it's easy for me to just come out and say, oh, show me gameplay, but I really think for some of these titles that they announced years ago, we need to start seeing something to help quell these concerns from the community. So I'm expecting gameplay. I am expecting gameplay for at least a few of the titles they've previously announced. Starfield, Redfall. I would love to see Everwild in engine. Don't think we're gonna get a big gameplay breakout. Don't think we'll get a Fable gameplay breakout, but I'm hoping for Avowed. I'm hoping that one's there. Again, they need to give fans some indication of what these games look like, what they're gonna play like. Some of the partner projects, we know those are coming along. Contraband, we could see the gameplay reveal for Contraband there. We could see, maybe the announcements for the project Shaolin, some of those other projects that have been going in the background for a little while now. Hopefully, Xbox gives fans some gameplay for some exclusive content that's coming in the nearish future.
Do you think we see any Perfect Dark stuff in there?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Personally, I don't think. Yeah, I know a lot of people want to see Perfect Dark, and I want to see Fable. I want to see Fable so damn bad, because we've heard conversations, loose reports, speculation that the game has been in some stage of development since 2019-ish. So again, probably too early for a big gameplay reveal breakdown, but hopefully,
State of Decay, maybe State of Decay.
Again, another one that I don't think we're gonna see anything for.
Dang.
Like, I want it. State of Decay 3, like, hearing them talk about how it's going to be this huge, sprawling game that kind of fulfills that Walking Dead fantasy with, like, different encampments, more multiplayer, more sprawling, kind of sort of MMO qualities to it. Like, hearing that sort of stuff gets me so excited about State of Decay 3. Seeing some of the, there was, like, the leak that went around, or I don't know if it was official release of the character model that they had in the trailer. So the character model is floating around the world there as well. So the fact that they are redoing their engine, that they're using Unreal 5, that they're basically using, photogrammetry to basically scan environments, to have hyper-realistic environments. They're talking about how they are trying to have this gold standard for animations for their characters. That game is ambitious as hell, and that's the reason I don't think we're going to see soon. As much as it hurts me, as much as I love State of Decay and want to see it, I don't.
Yeah, makes sense. It makes sense.
So, second question here for you.
Yeah.
How does Xbox fill some of these gaps for the rest of the year? What do you want to see them do to kind of say, all right, we know Starfield's not coming, we know Redfall is not coming, but you can have this, and that'll get people excited.
It's hard. It's really hard. I don't know. Like, I'm in two different places. One where I think they're gonna have to triple down on their third party stuff again. They're gonna have to do it. It's gonna carry them into when those first parties drop. They have to show something that is close to being coming out that we didn't have an expectation for. Like, I think that there has to be some team that's working on something at this point that is closer to being done than not. And they're going to have to take one of those slots and say, like, this is the game you're going to get for this holiday season. Cause I just don't think this is one of the first times where I just don't have a line of sight. And I think that's the part that is the most worrying, right? Which is not worrying in a big way, just like, because we have a crap ton of games to still play, right? But it is one of those things of, usually, as a person that's kind of on those inner circle conversations often enough, you kind of have a line of sight to be like, well, if this doesn't happen, then we'll see this thing happen.
Yeah.
And currently, I have no line of sight. I have no understanding of like what those things are going to wind up being. That's going to be in that space. Like, I think maybe Summer Games Fest will give us some inkling about what that may potentially be. I think that will be, where we might get some information that may tie into the showcase. Then it's like, oh, okay, you held this thing for this, and it may not be in the showcase, but it'll be on the platform, right? So I think Summer Games Fest will be the actual place where we get most of the information about what's going to wind up being in the showcase that we're going to care about in an actual way. So yeah, this is hard. It has been very rare in the past couple of years to be like, I kind of don't know. So yeah,
it's an interesting showcase in that sense because so far outside of Redfall and Starfield, we don't really know what they plan on showing, and that's honestly exciting for me because last year I quite frankly knew 90% of what was at the showcase, and that's, as a gaming fan, not that fun, if I'm being honest. As much as people want that insider cred or whatever, There's nothing better than a cool video game surprise.
Yeah.
And that's why, I try. Obviously, Windows Central has leaked things in the past, but I try not to leak things personally on a personal level because I like the big surprises. I like those moments. I like when we can all share in those moments together. So I got to say, honestly, not knowing, as frustrating as it is to lock down, it's a little bit exciting. It's a little bit exciting to not know what's on the table. I will say I don't think there's any first party title that will fill Starfield. They don't have anything that in their back pocket that's just on that level that they're like, oh, here you go, that's ready. Bam, we're dropping that. What I want to see, as we're hearing word that the Blizzard, the Blizzard Activision deal is moving along at a good pace. What I want to see, and what I would love to see, and what I think would be a slam dunk, huge splash that would not only get Xbox fans excited, but move the needle for Game Pass this holiday. Diablo 4 launching day one in Xbox Game Pass. Big gameplay reveal at the Xbox Showcase and a date. A gameplay reveal and a date for Diablo 4 at the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase. Day one drop into Xbox Game Pass. Because despite even ignoring the deal, even ignoring the deal on the table, there's no way that people from Xbox were not talking to these big publishers and saying, yo, how do we get your biggest game, especially a multiplayer-centric game like Diablo, how can we launch that in Game Pass? Would you have any interest? Here's what it's done for previous games. Here's what it can do for us, for you. Here's how much money we're willing to give you if you want to do that. And I think Jez was joking about it, or somebody was joking about it. Maybe it was Lord Cog or Maddie when I was in Defining Duke, but they were joking that, if the deal goes through, you're just paying yourself. You're just paying yourself for this deal. And you're getting all that money right back. You drop a huge bag on Activision Blizzard to get Diablo 4 and Game Pass. You get that all back, baby, when that deal comes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the reason they did the deal, right? Like they're not stupid. They knew that game was going to be a banger and people are going to want to play it. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And so I think that would be one potentially. I know it's not first party, technically speaking. It would be multi-platform, technically speaking, but you can't tell me that the Xbox audience would not be screaming if Diablo 4 was a day one Game Pass drop. Like that would be huge. Do you think we'll get
some? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut off the last part of your
Oh, no. I just said that would be huge.
Do you think we'll get anything from NetherRealm? Do you think we'll get anything from that part of the fence?
I guess they've been quiet for a few years, huh? When did Mortal Kombat 11 drop? Was that 2 years ago or 3?
I think it's 3 at this point. I think it's 3.
Their pipeline has been really efficient. They haven't really gone typically 3+ years without dropping something. That's interesting. I haven't been thinking about NetherRealm.
Maybe we get another, peek at Injustice. Maybe we get, or maybe we get a peek at Injustice because I think that's the next game that they were working on.
Maybe we get the Mortal Kombat Cross Killer Instinct review. You think they're doing that?
MK versus multiverses? I'm down for that.
Let's go. Come on.
Chop up Bugs Bunny. You serve him up. I'm okay with that. That would be an interesting spot. Again, I think, we usually that stuff lands on a Game Awards, but I feel like that also would be a really good get to potentially share if they were, new MK or new Injustice kind of popping up. I don't know. It's so weird this year because again, I think people are really discounting just how much COVID has played into the conversation about game development, how all that stuff has changed the landscape for the way things are working.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be really wild to see what they're going to drop because I have no clue.
Yeah.
None.
Woo. I got a couple more questions on this topic here, but I want to give a quick shout out to the 218 amazing folks rocking with us on this glorious Saturday. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. If you're listening to the audio versions of the show, you're having a fun time, drop us a review as well. All right, 2 important questions before we wrap up the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase conversation. In your opinion, what does a successful showcase from Xbox look like this year? If they came out and delivered best case scenario for you, what are we seeing this year?
Honestly, and this is going to sound so bad, but they have to nail whatever the things that they're going to talk about. They have to be coming out before the end of the year. It kind of doesn't matter what the games are. they need a couple of games that are going to be that are going to drop within the calendar year, and they're going to stick to their actual date, their launch date. Because then they'll have something to talk about moving into, the end of the year and into Q1. Because I'm feeling like whatever Starfield and Redfall are going to wind up being, they're not going to hit in January. They're going to probably be towards the end of that quarter, maybe February. So we'll see. Like I think they have to just nail whatever those games are going to be, and they have to throw like one or two surprises in there, like something that you hadn't heard about for a while, or something that you were like, oh yeah, I remember you about that. Oh, now it's kind of almost ready. Like that's kind of great. Because I feel like this is not going to be hot boy summer for them. This is not going to be that time of year for them. They're going to be maybe hot person winter, potentially. In terms of what it's going to wind up. So we'll see. They got to show something. They got to get something in there real hard.
Yeah, I think a successful gameplay showcase, like you touched on, needs to have short-term stuff. People, again, regardless of how you feel about the current Xbox right now, it's scheduled for 2022. We know the future of Xbox is packed. There are a ton of really cool games on the horizon. We know they're giving their teams the time to make these games, and they're going to take longer. But a lot of people, like we touched on, are kind of tired of waiting. And again, if you've been told for years and years, oh yeah, just wait, it's coming. And then next year, oh yeah, just wait, it's coming. At a certain point, you get a little frustrated, you get a little tired of waiting. We're all impatient, especially when it comes to things we're excited about, things we want. I joked about this previously, but when Elden Ring was delayed by a month, I was like, no, please, no, don't do this to me. And it was a month. So we're all a little bit impatient. That being said, Xbox, I think to have a successful show needs to show gameplay for stuff it's already revealed, at least a handful of them. It needs to have a few surprises for the fall that at least are noteworthy. They don't have to be quadruple A game industry changing, but they need to be a couple cool surprises for fall. And everything they show, similar to last year, I think needs to come within a year. I think that's fine. If they have stuff that bleeds over into next spring, next summer, I think that is totally fine. But people are anxious, upset, frustrated about the short term. And I know for a fact that Xbox absolutely understands that. They're not oblivious to that. And I think they're going to lean into third parties, lean into Game Pass, lean into some smaller scale projects to hopefully satiate those fans who rightfully want some Xbox games to play. So I think that's a successful show. What does a disappointing showcase look like to you? What would be what would be a huge blunder for Xbox at this showcase?
I mean, well, here's the interesting part. I think like for a lot of times you wind up filling gaps with big games that you've missed with a lot of indies. And I still don't know, like, I think Game Pass has done a really great job of showcasing and building up the conversation around some of why indie games matter in that way. ID at Xbox has continued to do a fantastic job in that respect. But I still don't think that those games have the cachet that really leans into what the kind of mainstay audience cares about. So I think if they triple down on indies, that's not going to be great for them. They actually need some big names to kind of come through, or at least something that's going to be close within that conversation. If they start kind of talking more about 2020, late 2023, that's going to be a problem. If you show a lot of CGI trailers, that's going to be a problem.
Yep. Oh my God.
Like we need to see a lot of in-game stuff at this point. We need to see all of those things kind of be in that mix. It would be cool if there was some layers of technology stuff that we haven't seen, or if they talked about maybe some price reductions, maybe that would be something that would help them out. But I don't think that with the chip shortage that they have and the game shortage that they have, that they have a lot of stuff to be able to kind of tout within that conversation. So we'll see. They have a lot of ways to make it go bad as opposed to making it go well, which is an unfortunate thing for them at this point.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Xbox still, for a lot of people, has something to prove in a lot of ways when it comes to games. They've proven they have great hardware. They've proven they have a great service. There's a lot of elements of the Xbox formula that undeniably, like, I don't care if you prefer PlayStation in a lot of ways, there are certain elements of the Xbox equation that if you're writing off at this point, I just feel are disingenuous. You either don't want Xbox to succeed, or you have some ulterior motive, because we can look at all of the big players right now, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, and point to their successes, point to specific things that they are doing incredibly well objectively, even if it isn't for you specifically. All of these companies are doing things incredibly well. But one criticism that Xbox still in a lot of ways hasn't fully overcome is that game thing, the must-have, must-play console platform driving games. They had a good showcase last year. I think the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase of last year was probably the best one that they've done. It was tight. Mm-hmm. It focused on games. There wasn't a lot of fluff filler. It was just game. So the pacing was incredible. They came out right off the bat and set the tone. They told you what you were going to see, what you should expect from the showcase. They delivered on that, and stuff like that goes a long way. So I think they've obviously taken some feedback. I imagine the CGI notes of last year were heard loud and clear. And again, if they come out this year and it's a lot of, new announcements that are CGI only, I would love a couple. Don't get me wrong. I do love the surprise reveals. Again, if that's the focus again, if we don't get a lot of gameplay for stuff that people are anticipating, we're never going to hear the end of it. And people are going to start, questioning, the entire future of Xbox, whether it's fair or not. A lot of people are already kind of on edge, upset, disappointed. And if they don't come out and deliver a showcase that absolutely rocks the house, we're going to have another year of people just saying, okay, wait till next year. And for some people that's done. That doesn't work anymore. And again, me personally, my situation, there's a lot of stuff I'm excited about this year, even before we go into E3, get some new announcements. So it's not a deal breaker for me. Still happy with the platform, but Xbox needs a few killer apps, and then that needs a few killer apps sooner rather than later.
Yep. Yeah. They also kind of can't do any company culture stuff this time around, which kind of sucks because they do that a lot in a lot of the showcases, even the game showcases. They'll drop a hey, this is how we're making the space better for everybody. Like they had a really great showing on Accessibility Day with the new gear that they were showing there, which I think is important. But they kind of have to weirdly, and I hate using the term, but they have to triple down on the hardcore fan right now within the space in a real way.
Yeah, they have momentum. Obviously they're pulling in a lot of new people, which cannot be understated. The momentum of Xbox right now, and I've said this before, I'll continue to say it, I've never been more excited about the future of Xbox because they have the right people in the right places. They have an understanding of how to succeed in the space, and they are, trying to change the culture and, work habits of their employees in a positive way. And that's important to me. That's important for me for just the sustainability of gaming as a whole. So there are things to be excited about, but there are things worth criticizing for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What they quote unquote need to do. All right. Let me get to some super chats here, and then we're going to move on to another topic. All right. Hargeet Chani says, will either of you be in LA for the June showcase? You going?
Yes. Yeah, I'll be there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there with my trusty camera and a microphone, walking around talking to people.
Let's go. I want to be there. It's up in the air for me because I just traveled recently. I unfortunately don't get paid time off, so this would be something that would just be out of my pocket if I did go. So we'll see. I want to go. I would like to go to meet all the people, hang out, have a good time. But I haven't confirmed yet that I'm going. Hargeet Chani with another super chat says, if ABK is done this year, COD Modern Warfare 2 in Game Pass. Maybe.
Are folks really excited about the new Modern Warfare though?
Because I feel like last year everybody's like, Call of Duty doesn't matter, Call of Duty's dead, blah blah blah.
I feel like Call of Duty is still dead. I don't think that Call of Duty is going to make a comeback anytime soon. I am dying for someone to take a new stab at the shooter in a way that feels better than what we've seen. Apex is kind of taking over that spot for a lot of people. But Modern Warfare 2, whatever this is going to wind up being, unless they do a major overhaul of so many different things, I just don't think it's going to do anything. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what's weird is, there's so much pessimism surrounding Vanguard ahead of its launch, and it still sold incredibly well, still performed well financially. and people love Modern Warfare, so I think it's safe to say it would be a big deal in Game Pass. And again, not for me. Like maybe I would dabble, maybe I would install it and play it, but I don't know. Obviously, it'd be a big deal for a casual audience, but for me, I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I want somebody else to be the premier first-person shooter.
yeah. I wanted Battlefield to be that game, and it did not.
Nope, Call of Duty.
Was not that
Battlefield did not deliver on anyone's expectations, and now they're killing the selling point, the 128 player mode of their game.
Yep.
Oof. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Next topic here is our good pal Hideo Kojima. Seems to be an incredibly busy man. He seems to have multiple projects in the works. Thanks to a recent interview with Norman Reedus of Walking Dead fame, of Death Stranding fame, he pretty much casually announced that Death Stranding 2 was in the works. We're working on it, is what he said, verbatim. So unfortunately for Kojima and maybe Jeff Keighley and the folks trying to have a surprise reveal for Death Stranding 2, this is the second time that Norman Reedus has just casually been like, yeah, that's happening. Death Stranding 2, yeah, we're doing a sequel for that one. Yeah, that's coming. And Kojima, I'm sure he picked up his phone and called him and said, dude, shut up, man. What are you doing? You lovable doof? Why are you talking? Like, you can't be mad at Norman Reedus because he's such a legend, but also, come on, dude. You can't just casually say you're working on a sequel to this. So a lot of people have run with this as an official confirmation. It's still not officially confirmed, but I don't imagine he's just saying it just to say it for no particular reason. I don't think that's the reality. So we're now living in a timeline where Kojima is potentially working on Death Stranding 2 and a cloud game for Xbox simultaneously. Neither one of these projects has been officially revealed. Both have been long rumored, long speculated on for a little while here. Does the idea of a Death Stranding 2 get you excited? Does that do anything for you? Yeah, okay.
I'm excited for Death Stranding 2 if that's going to be a thing. Also, I've just learned to not tell Norman secret.
Yeah, no.
Like, don't. If you want people to know a thing, not know a thing, don't tell Norman Reedus. he's gonna rat you out, tell you all your business. I'm excited for it. I love Death Stranding. Death Stranding was a fantastic game that I was like surprisingly a thing that I thought was going to be stupid and make no sense, and it didn't make sense, but it was a great time. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with a potentially bigger game. Like, well, again, that's me talking out of my behind because I don't know yet, but I'm hoping if they do that game that it's going to be bigger. I also would love to see what they're going to do with the kind of setting, because it was a lot about you're going to traverse, America in this kind of, future space time. I don't know what you're going to do that's going to change that part of the conversation from a setting perspective. That's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen. And you saw towards the end of that game when they kind of got towards the second or like later parts of DLC, air quotes DLC, because it didn't really have DLC. It got more, fighty in a weird way. Like you were more using your weapons and guns and stuff like that. Like they made it a little bit easier, giving you jetpacks and all this other kind of stuff to help you do it. Which also made me, I was like, what the hell? Like it was one of those times where I was like, I played this game and I walked an actual 1,000 miles up and down the hill in the snow, and now you're gonna give everybody jump packs and freaking guns and crap. Like what? So I'm hyped for it. I want to see what Norman Reedus winds up doing in this thing. I think he was still that character towards the end of that game that you standing like he's gonna be here if they do make a sequel. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I want that game to come out and do well.
I'm in the same camp. I'm actually playing Death Stranding right now. I've been playing it for a few months. So I think I'm close to 40 hours-ish through it. So I still, according to people I've talked to who have beat it, where I'm at, I still have a long ways to go. So it's a massive game. And I love the storytelling. I love the atmosphere. And honestly, I love the weird traversal mechanics. I know they aren't necessarily riveting in a lot of ways, but I like the ideas that were presented there. I like the new gameplay mechanics, and I would be very curious to see them expand upon it. Like the things you touch on that I get maybe kind of sort of complaining about like the jetpack, the weird
Yeah.
additions, like that stuff I want to see. Like if they can expand upon that in the sequel and give me more tools to traverse this world, let me get weirder with it. Because I love the silly stuff like the ladder, like just laying a ladder across a river, climbing it, using the rope. Like those mechanics and those systems were really cool. But those were the only few, and I would love to see that kind of expand upon that, upon the combat, even if it isn't just straight up you get a gun, figure out ways to be able to fight back in different ways. I like the pee and poop grenade system that you would use to fight the demons. Like they did some really cool stuff with it. So I would be excited for a sequel because, you know, I know it's not for everyone because it is slow. It is a slower game. For me, I like that kind of methodical ambience to it. I like the world and everything that was created there. So that wasn't a problem for me, but I totally get for some people that want a high octane experience. It's not always that, but those moments of magic are so undeniable, and Kojima does such a great job in that game, giving me stuff I've never seen before. And I always talk about it. That is the stuff that is the most exciting for me as a player, are those moments, those mechanics that I've just never experienced, because we've all played games that aren't original in any sort of way, and they're not necessarily bad, but when you have something that comes out and you would expect in a game, like there's nothing more exciting to me.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm hoping that when they do it, they really go wild with it, like you said. Like I want it to be super wacky, because they did a lot of wacky stuff in it, but it also felt kind of grounded in the space because they didn't want to like overextend a new IP in a way that was going to push people away. I want them to just go super wild and stupid now with this. Now we kind of understand the world. We understand the way that all the tethers and all that kind of stuff works. I would like for them to have a more coherent story, because the beach, I still don't know what the hell the beach was for. But there's a lot of conversation.
Anywho, one final question on the Kojima topic. With the rumors of the Xbox Cloud game and Death Stranding 2, is there a timeline where we get 2 Kojima reveals this summer? You think we're gonna have an Kojima on the Xbox, in the Xbox showcase and in the PlayStation showcase?
I don't see why not. Like, I mean, you have Kojima, who commands such a vacuum at this point. Like when he steps into a room, it all kind of shuts down, and they're just like, all right, so what do you got? You're here. You're usually not here unless you have something to talk about. So I would love that. And more Kojima stuff. Give me more Kojima things. Whatever you got from Kojima, I'm down to rock it and play around with it. So yeah, that'll be cool.
I would love to see it, honestly. Like Kojima at this point, he's got this notoriety, he's got this infamy to him. Whether you like him or not, he is this larger than life figure in the gaming industry. And again, whether or not you love his games or not, it is a big deal to have a Kojima exclusive for your platform. And I've seen a lot of people say that, you know, he's got a good relationship with PlayStation, maybe wouldn't work on an Xbox exclusive. He obviously does have a good relationship with PlayStation. But I don't think he would never do an exclusive for Xbox. And I would love to see a world where Kojima is at both conferences and says like, hey, you know what? I don't really care. Like, I'm going to make great games where I can make great games. And if you want to play them, cool. If not, I don't care, because people are still going to give me a buttload of money to make weird shit. So, and that's fine with me. Like, the one thing I will commend about Death Stranding 2 and PlayStation is, if this is true and PlayStation is fully publishing this and funding it, kudos for spending a buttload of money to make really incredibly weird big budget games. That's why I'm excited about about Hellblade 2, because that game looks like nightmare fuel. It looks like absolute madness. And I want more companies and I want more publishers to say, you know what? Maybe this isn't going to sell 20 million copies, but it's going to be an amazing experience unlike anything else, and we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. I got to commend that. I got to applaud that, because
more weird stuff.
Yeah, it can't only be about the money. It just can't. All right. Acquisition talk, buddy. You ready?
Oh, snap.
So there's been a couple acquisition developments that have been interesting this week, and I think that they're worth talking about. First, we briefly touched on this. Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, has basically come out and said that the Activision Blizzard deal is moving quickly. They are approaching the end of the beginning, as they called it, and are in the middle of the negotiations here. So there are still reviews in place, but it sounds like a lot of the beginning reviews are done. We're past that phase. And there's been speculation as to when this deal would close. Initially, people were saying early next year, and now people are saying like maybe because they're messaging it now, it's going to be closing sooner than people expect, and maybe we'll see the deal close this year.
Sure.
Do you think the deal has a possibility of closing this year, or do you think we still have a ways to go?
I think we still have a ways to go. Like, I think for the most part, when those deals kind of happen, first of all, it takes a really long time just to even get a deal like this started, to have that conversation even be well enough along for them to actually have spoken about it publicly. So when we got that first even initial conversation, that had been in the works probably for years at that point, to kind of get into that space. I don't think that was a thing that happened very, very quickly. I think right now, we're at this stage where I think most folks who are really paying attention to the deal, like, yes, we understand that those games are going to be coming into the platform and into the portfolio. But I think right now, most of the folks who are really trying to see this deal move fast is more about company persona than it is about the actual games and stuff. Like, everybody's like, we need to hurry up and get Bobby Kotick out of here. We also need to hurry up and start to get that conversation rolling so that we can start to talk about the games that you all have in the pipeline. So I think they're in the middle of it. I think we'll probably see something towards the end of the done. And then, once that happens, then, they get to start talking about the stuff that they're working on across the board and implement and kind of incorporate those things into, these kinds of showcases. I wouldn't be surprised if we wind up seeing in the future, we have the Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard showcase. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't start to have that be the conversation.
A 6-hour Xbox showcase once per year.
Yeah, basically, like it would make sense at that point to kind of just like bundle all that stuff together if you have it, because they got Overwatch coming. They're gonna want to tout that as a huge part of their portfolio. So, yeah, end of the year is my guess for where we're gonna see that kind of hit.
I still think it's a ways off. I know a lot of people, at least in the Xbox camp, want it to happen and close because that means they could just fill the fall with a bunch of Game Pass drops of all these Activision Blizzard titles, which would be cool. That would be an exciting thing to say, hey, if you love Call of Duty and you love Blizzard and you love all these games, bam, entire catalog in Xbox Game Pass, go crazy. And that, I mean, objectively, you could say, well, there is stuff to play. If you have Game Pass, there's definitely stuff to play there. So I understand that people want it for those reasons. I do think because of the size and scale and, current scrutiny of all of these acquisitions happening at the same time in gaming, that there probably will be more thorough checks in place than previously than something like Bethesda, especially with the absolute mess of Activision Blizzard, all the lawsuits, all of the people saying like, oh, well, Bobby Kotick's doing this so he doesn't have to face any repercussions. There are a lot of complicated things that make this a very involved acquisition. One, sheer size. Two, the ongoing lawsuits and controversy surrounding Blizzard. So it's complicated.
And I think speaking towards the like, what do we want them to do that's going to get people excited? I saw a lot of chatter in the chat today about like how folks are really excited for MW2. If they are able to line up the acquisition being finalized with where MW2 in terms of development is going to wind up being, I doubt it's, again, it's not going to come out this year, but I think they then get a chance to say, and it'll be day and date in Game Pass, right? Like that game will wind up being, which would actually be a pretty big get for Xbox in that way. Is to say one of the biggest games or IPs that we see in the space that we know makes a crap ton of money is just going to be in Game Pass because it just makes sense. So they get to tout that as a big win.
Exactly. And I can't imagine, like I've talked about this before, but I can't imagine that Xbox, regardless of the deal not being closed, isn't leaning into the titles that they can. Your Diablo 4s, your Overwatch 2s. There was the chart that PlayStation had recently that's caused a lot of speculation where they talked about their marketing partnerships for the year. And the weird omission that a lot of people pointed to was there was no Call of Duty. There was no Call of Duty listed on there. So this speculation and ongoing rumor for a long time was that PlayStation had the marketing rights to Call of Duty through X year. And maybe because we haven't had the big reveal, big blowout, they didn't include it yet in their banner. So I'm not saying that that's any sort of confirmation that Xbox has a marketing deal with Call of Duty. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But I do agree, Call of Duty and Game Pass would be a big deal. Would be a really big deal.
And I also didn't think about this until now, but I think one of the things that both companies, I'm sure, are doing are they're looking at each other's portfolios for the next year and kind of gauging how fast they have to go, right? Like even if you think about what Sony's going to potentially bring out for the rest of this year, it's slim pickings for them too, to be honest. Like, what's the game that everyone's going to be really excited about besides God of War Ragnarok, right? Like, it's a huge title for them,
Mm-hmm.
but I still think that game is going to wind up getting delayed. I still feel like that game is not going to make it to 2022. And I'm like, if that's the case, then what's the next game that you have that's going to be your tentpole game? It's probably Hogwarts. Like, that's probably the only other game that you have in the mix that's going to really have people excited and talking about it in a way both good and bad. So that winds up putting them in a weird situation that Xbox may be like, well, we don't have to do that much to really get through the end of this year because the competition isn't going to be that stiff. So things to think about within that
exactly. It's
conversation too.
again, we focus on Xbox here, but the reality is, yeah, outside of God of War Ragnarok, the slate for PlayStation this year isn't super stacked either. And
Yeah.
again, maybe the delay of Starfield and Redfall has PlayStation be like, okay, you know what? It doesn't really matter now if we delay God of War because, again,
Yeah.
like you talked about, we're looking at our competition. Their biggest games are delayed. Okay, we can delay God of War, and it's not a huge deal. They weren't afraid to delay Horizon if it needed more time. So that set the precedent that even if they have to miss the holiday window, PlayStation will delay a game. And I
Yep.
think that's commendable. I think that is, there were a lot of conversations about Halo Infinite and how it launched and, should it be delayed because it's missing features, blah, blah, blah. They pushed for that holiday window. They hit the holiday window. Game reviewed well. There's a lot of stuff to like. But now we have conversations in the community where people are like, maybe they should have delayed it. Maybe this game should not have come out in the holiday window and they should have just taken the hit and said, we're going to ship it in the summer.
Yep.
So stuff worth thinking about. Another big acquisition that I kind of wanted to touch on was this report that popped up late this week suggesting that as of a couple weeks ago, EA was in talks to merge with Comcast. So we had this nightmare scenario where Comcast, one of the largest media conglomerates in the world, owns EA. And there's been a lot of recent conversations about these outside figures getting into the industry because they see there's so much money to be made. There's a ton of money to be made in video games. So a lot of people, I was touching on the Saudi Arabia example. Saudi Arabia is dumping a ton of money into gaming. They are just dumping money in, buying chunks to have that because a lot of people just understand there's money to be made. And that's really, for some of these people, what I feel like it's 100% about. Like, I feel like a lot of these figures don't necessarily care about the industry. They don't necessarily care about the people making the games. They don't care about what it takes to make a game. Now we're having these conversations about nefarious, I use in air quotes, nefarious players in the industry buying up all of these games, publishers, and studios. Do you have any concerns about, an EA or these outside figures coming in and buying up all of these publishers? Because a lot of people, have concerns about Microsoft, who has the ability to do that as well. I have a little more faith in them because they are vested in the industry and have been vested in the gaming industry for several decades. But should players be concerned about the future?
I mean, not unless the folks who it really depends on how much of the company you own, right? Like, I think the figure that we saw coming through around that buy-in from Saudi Arabia of the company, I forgot which one it was.
Nintendo.
It was like 5.
It was
with
Nintendo.
Right, Nintendo, right. It was like 5%, right? Like,
yeah.
You don't really get a big seat at the table to decide the way things are going to work at Nintendo with a 5% investment, right? So I think it really depends. Once you see those numbers start to tip into you have the kind of majority stake in a company, that's when I think gamers should be starting to get worried about that conversation. Japan has Nintendo on lock. It is their baby. They are not going to give up Nintendo to another country in that way. It is one of the biggest, companies that they have within that conversation in the gaming space. So, like, I think people should be less worried about that in that way. I think you should really be paying attention to, once you start to see those numbers start to climb, that, and what does that mean for the company's health? Because once you start selling off big chunks of your company, that means that you're something's wrong within the way that your P&Ls are working, the way that your prospects for the games you're making aren't selling well, and then you start to make conversations like that, which broadens out into the EA conversation really, really well, because it is what's the state of EA right now, where they are kind of thinking about this as a major player, as a company that we think of as one of the tentpole companies within gaming, that they're even broaching that conversation. That tells me a lot about the state of what EA games are doing, or at least what the perception of what EA games are doing, and what that means from the stakeholders, that they're like, okay, shop us around, right? Like that's a huge conversation in that respect. But I don't think folks, as you, Joe and Jill and them gamer, should be worrying about like how that kind of affects the way your games are going to be made, or change that. I don't think it's going to happen in that way.
Yeah, and that's, for me, a lot of these conversations come down to, what does it mean for the people working at these companies? What does it mean for the people making these games? Because again, we've seen this cool shift in the industry and the culture, and a lot of companies are prioritizing their employees. We're seeing Capcom raise wages across the board. We're seeing companies like Square Enix move to 4-day work weeks. We're seeing companies like Microsoft increase their wages across the board. We're seeing them talk about anti-crunch. We're seeing a lot of positive momentum in how we treat people in the games industry. And I worry that, like, as you touched on, if these stakes start becoming majority stakes and these companies start losing the control of how they operate, and you start having shareholders say, yo, I want my return on investment. I gave you this much money. I want this money back now. You're going to see people pressured into a situation where we kind of regress in a lot of ways, I feel like, because of just all of the money on the table. So it is interesting and kind of frightening that there was almost a world where Comcast and EA were one in my eyes.
Ugh. Just imagine the customer support.
I can't. I literally can't even fathom what that would be.
Because we can't see it because it's not there.
Oh,
Comcast is awful.
Yes. Yes, they are. All right. Final big topic here. Final big topic of the show. We're turning to you. We're turning to you, the audience. If you are here listening live, you have burning Xbox questions. Prep them. Get ready to drop them in the chat. I have a collection here in my document. We're going to be diving into those. The biggest, hottest, burning questions from the Xbox community right now. Before we do that, I'm going to get to some super chats. We got JD Gamer, who says, I think the very loud minority that we all represent often overreact to what the larger community cares about. I think that's an important point. Yeah, I think that's fair, because
you nailed that.
I talk about it all the time. What's frustrating is the fair concerns, the fair criticisms, the fair compliments get drowned out by the loud noise. And there are things worth talking about, but then people feel this need to defend it either way when it comes to, well, people are just being mean, or people just want to troll, or whatever the case might be. And any sort of constructive little nuance is gone. And so I do agree that the loud folks kind of ruin the conversations often, very, very often. JD Gamer says, can I play decent games on the platform? Yes. Can I get those games at a reasonable price? Yes. Finally, is it available more than before? I think that's in reference to Xbox. JD Gamer again, things for Microsoft to do to win E3. Announced marketing rights to Call of Duty, gameplay of Hellblade, Perfect Dark, Fable, Forza Motorsport 8, and Starfield, then a surprise Game Pass edition of Persona 4 and 5 with the date for the Final Fantasy remake. Damn, JD Gamer got that wish list ready to go.
I love it.
Love it. Keep that energy up. Let's go.
I love it.
JD Gamer crushing it. My goodness. The big question isn't just when does the ABK deal close? It's who does Microsoft go after immediately when the deal closes? Sega, Capcom, WB, EA. Now who?
Nobody.
JD Gamer again got his wish list. He's got a shopping list over here.
I love it.
He's checking it twice. He's
spending that Microsoft money. I like it. I appreciate it. I don't think they're going to do anything soon because the SEC is already down their throats. They're already looking at them like, stop it. Don't buy any more shit.
Yeah, I wonder what the I imagine there will be more down the road, but I wonder after all of this and after all the money, if they're like, all right, let's take a beat. Let's take a year maybe, but again, if another deal kind of falls into their lap, like we're hearing that the Activision Blizzard deal that did, then who knows?
Yeah.
JD Gamer, Kahlief, sometimes when a company sells off huge chunks or all of it, it's not about the health of the company, it's about a payout. Sometimes the founders or senior management are ready to cash out.
Agreed. I would say that's rare though. I think once you've gotten that deep into it, especially if you're a largely held company like an EA or something to that effect, like there are just way too many stockholders to have to worry about. And I think that winds up being more about like your prospects of making more money by selling out to a bigger company and getting that cash out deal. But I think when you're an established company like this, it is also a balance of legacy too, right? Like I don't think Activision Blizzard in that way, they had been, matter of fact, Activision Blizzard had been in the space for over 25 years before they got ever bought out, right? Through wild amounts of controversy.
Yes.
Through like wild stuff happening in that space, right? So even if those folks, even the most stringent folks who were like, yo, I got to dump this to get my hands clean, we're still like, well, it's not that bad. Then it's going to be rare for people to if you're a stakeholder in a company like EA to be like, sell the company because we want to get rid of the games that are not doing well. Those things don't line up in that way. But I appreciate your thoughts because there are some companies, smaller startups would do something like that, not big companies.
All right, some burning community questions here. First up, what does the Xbox roadmap for the next few years look like? How many titles will Xbox release in 2023?
75 titles in 2023.
Wow. Can you list them for me?
Final Fantasy 15, 16, 17, and 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All of them. I mean, we just talked about this the other day about
Final
how
Fantasy's
Final
finally
Fantasy
coming
is
to
a lie.
Xbox?
Final Fantasy is a lie because this game has made 15,000 games and they keep calling it Final. That's a lie. That's a fib. That's not real. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't know. Who knows what games are going to be dropping? How many games are going to be dropping in 2023? No one knows. We know the big games that we care about are Starfield and Redfall, and then hopefully, I think Avowed maybe gets into 2023, but late. State of Decay probably gets into 2023, but late. Like I think we'll see a lot of stuff towards the end of the year, 2023, that we saw like 2 or 3 years ago at Game Awards and stuff like that. So I don't know.
There's been a lot of focus on the Xbox roadmap since Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella came out and basically said, we're trying to ship one big game per quarter. We're all in on gaming, and that's kind of led a lot of people to speculate about what those roadmaps could look like and how Xbox could potentially deliver one game per quarter and how those games might stack up. So 2022, not the year for that. That is clearly not the year that they're delivering on that one big game per quarter. It's safe to say that will not be happening. They didn't deliver on that last year. The messaging kind of came out or leading into the previous year. So they've had about a year to kind of start hashing out what that looks like. And I think 2023, now that we know that Starfield and Redfall are coming in 2023, I think it's safe to say that'll be the year they have one game per quarter. And really what I'm thinking, if I'm looking at the big tentpole games for next year, this is just speculation, so don't hold this to any sort of real weight. I'm thinking Q1 Redfall, Q2 Starfield, Q3 Avowed, and Q4 Hellblade 2. That's what, if I'm picking 4, if I'm using the quarterly standard, I'm thinking those are the 4 for the year 2023, and then stuff like State of Decay 3, Fable, Perfect Dark, etc. will be 2020. Just loosely throwing it out there, taking a guesstimate. You can clip this out of context if you want and dunk on me later, but that's just where I'm at right now. I'm following my gut, following my heart, and that's how I feel about Xbox's lineup for 2023.
I do wonder also, like really quickly, how many games that were started on Unreal Engine 4 will just get released because they want to move to new tech. It's a weird thought process, but I wonder as well, like we're getting to that space where even though we're still fairly early in this gen, I think from a technology standpoint, folks are kind of already looking for the new pretty thing. And
Yeah,
you
people want
know,
that the bells and whistles,
yeah,
the
like I feel
screen
like
space reflections, ray
we're
tracing.
seeing so much stuff come out now at that space where we're just like, man, like this all kind of still looks a little bit old. So I wonder if that's going to be a thing of like we'll see in the next year all of those games that were, you know, if you're making it on some version of Unreal 4, if we kick all those out the door, get them out of the space, and then you start to see the Unreal 5 or iterations of games kind of start to come out in that space to kind of clear the channel, as they would say.
Yeah, we're all ready for those big Unreal 5 games.
Yeah,
We've seen teases, we've had actual demos that showcase what is capable with this engine, and now we're ready. We're ready to see what that looks like in a big budget AAA video game. So I hope that 2023 is the year we start seeing that more consistently and more regularly as these teams have had some time to get comfortable with the engine, transition projects to the engine. Some of these projects we know, like Hellblade 2, has basically been built up or built from the ground up with Unreal 5 in mind. So stuff like that is really exciting. And it's, you know, it's an exciting time. New tech, new gen, and new tech aligning for a generation. That is really exciting. And we still haven't even seen a lot of what Xbox has promised with stuff like Xbox Velocity Architecture, the super resolution. A lot of those features aren't even widely implemented on Xbox yet. So there's still a lot of huge possibilities for what games can look like. What I really want to know is how they're going to implement these features with open world games. Like, are we going to finally be able to eliminate some of the restrictions of draw distance? Are we going to be able to have more consistent frame rates with huge open world games? Those are the things that I want to see tangibly with these games.
Yep.
All right. Next, burning community question. Where are the JRPGs? Will Persona, Legend of Mana, and Final Fantasy VII Remake be coming to Xbox this year? All right, Ka, is this the year, bro? Final Fantasy VII, let's go. We getting it?
I hope so I don't have to hear about it anymore. As the worst, like I'm the worst person to ask about JRPGs because I don't care about JRPGs at all. Like I'm like, why are they still making these?
Damn.
Stop making JRPGs, please. No one wants this.
Oh God! Oh, you're not winning fans with that one.
I'm gonna lose all the fans for that one. I don't care about JRPGs. JRPGs are bad. But I think 7. I mean, they have to talk about 7 at some point fairly soon. Like it's been long enough that game is sat on the vine for a bit, and I think like they need to be able to finally pull out the second part of that game, so that people can get excited about it. So. I mean, people are excited about it, but they need to like showcase it. But also, like, it looks like every freaking thing else that's a JRPG anyway.
Yeah, Persona, and Final Fantasy VII are the two big ones. The Xbox fans are like, "Yo, what is the deal? Like, this isn't even a niche one. Like, you could because a lot of the arguments are like, well, JRPGs don't do well on Xbox, so a lot of the smaller ones don't come to Xbox, but." Usually the big ones do, and it doesn't really get bigger than Final Fantasy VII Remake. Obviously, there was the exclusivity deal, all of that good stuff. But at this point, it's going to be 2 years, and people are like, yo, is this ever happening? Like, there's the hope on the horizon for Xbox fans is starting to dwindle when it comes to Final Fantasy. So I would love to see the Weeb showcase this year. This summer, they're like, boom, guess what? We heard your feedback. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Persona 5, all of these Persona games, all of the Mana games, Secret of Mana, Trials of Mana, Legend of Mana, all of these games coming to Xbox this year. And then again, fill in some gaps. Give them people stuff to play, all right? Come on.
You just make the same whiny game.
Dang.
Put a new name on it and people will be happy. It's the same shit.
Wow, dude. Wow. All right, I'm moving on here. How does Xbox appease Game Pass subscribers this year?
I mean, again, I think again you have to the games that come out of this showcase, the stuff that's supposed to be dropping this year, you got to put everything in Game Pass. I think you got like most of the stuff that's going to be shown or people are going to take care of. You just got to throw Game Pass at everybody. You got to put it into a space where you're just going to blow it out, right? You have nothing to lose in the respect of you're already getting good adoption. You're already making gamers happy with the offerings that you have. You just got to throw more stuff in it to get people excited about continuing to put pony up for the Game Pass subscription. That's basically it.
Yeah,
Don't
you
have to do
really,
much.
yeah. If you don't have the big first party stuff to lean into, you better lean into third party and make sure every month there's at least one standout that gets people going. All right, dope. I'm excited about that. I think this month it was Sniper Elite 5. And again, I've seen some people kind of pessimistic about that one, but I didn't check out the first Sniper Elite until 4, until that hit FPS boost in Game Pass. And I ended up loving it. Like, if you love the Hitman franchise and you love that kind of player agency, Sniper Elite's fun. And you get to just blow out testicles in slow motion. So it's a good time.
And there's a
dude.
new one coming out, right? There's a new one, right?
Dropping day one in Game Pass. And I think that is a cool get. It's not a huge AAA banger, quote unquote, but I think it is a worthwhile game that's got some co-op and adds some cool value to Game Pass. So I would love to see something on that level every single month to make sure that no matter what, no matter who you are, you're still happy with Game Pass.
Yeah.
All right. When are the UX updates, the user experience updates coming? Game DVR and achievements in particular are the two things I had so many people blowing up this thread with when they were talking about their biggest questions and concerns with Xbox. We know Jason Ronald, going into this year, talked about how it's a huge priority for the team. And as you touched on, we're coming up on June. Coming up on June here. And people are wondering, all right, what's that priority timeline looking like? I know it's a priority for the team, but what does that mean in terms of execution?
I mean, I'm really hoping it's soon, because I never liked the UX on the current Xbox platform. Like, it doesn't do anything for making me excited to play around on, in the menus and kind of get to what I need to. It's still clunky. Of course you can pin stuff and unpin stuff, but it feels old. Like, I want the stuff that I'm messing around with at this point to just feel new. And it doesn't feel new. Like, there are just so many small, weird design choices that go along. How even, one of my favorite things to do is to play stuff and then capture gameplay and then send that stuff to my phone. It's gotten better and faster, but it's still clunky. Like, it's still weird to have to navigate through some of the things that you need to. So I would say, they can be more transparent about like what those things are going to wind up being. They need to do a lot more. Like, I feel like those are things that don't need to be on the blog first. I think you need to do a full video and have a walkthrough and show that stuff and then push that stuff on the blog. We wind up getting stuff on the blog first because it's not a thing you want to do a press conference around, but you want to do it. But like, that's stuff that you can put in the showcase and be like, look, we're changing up the Xbox UI. We're thinking a little bit future forward. We're thinking about all that kind of stuff. I think that would be a nice, small, like 5 to 7 minute thing that you do. That gives people an understanding that, like, no, we're paying attention to these in a real.
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversations with the UI and the experience not being, different enough from the Xbox One. And obviously they're kind of focused on this generation that all of your stuff, all of your games, all of your hardware, all of that carries over. So it's not a hard reset on the generation, and that kind of carried over with the dashboard. But I agree, a lot of people want something new. They want something innovative. Xbox One, when that launched, there was a lot of innovative things about the dashboard. Granted, the dashboard was a mess at launch. It was really inconsistent, but they were pushing new things. The snap feature was dope. There was a lot of really cool ideas with that dashboard. And for some people, it doesn't matter because you're turning on the console, you're opening a game, bam, that's it. That's all you want the machine to do. It does that well enough. But the other things that we see a lot of PlayStation fans tout about. We are getting dynamic themes, which I think is cool. I would love to see more customization across the board. And yeah, game clips. Game clips, the process, while it's gotten better, is still so inconsistent, still so frustrating. Trimming clips on the Xbox, I don't know why, I don't know how. It is so buggy. It's
not fun.
It crashes constantly. It won't even trim. Like, the most basic thing, just trimming a clip. For me, it's not even, I'm not exaggerating when I say it's a 50-50 shot as to whether or not it's going to work. And being this deep into a gen, and have the fact that this isn't even a new feature. This was Xbox One. The fact that it's still inconsistent this deep, I'm tired of it. Really, really tired. And again, I'm sure they have data that suggests that these aren't huge priorities for everyone. You know, folks like me who want to record clips, share clips on podcasts, share clips on Twitter. Yeah, cool. Obviously, that's a big deal for me. But for the average person who just wants to play a game, maybe it doesn't matter. And maybe that's why it's not priority number one for them. But come on now.
I'm saying, at this point, come on. It just looks old. It's not a appealing thing to look at, and it's not that great to navigate. Just fix it. Fix it.
Fix it. Come on.
I love Ronald too. Ronald, I know the team is working super hard, so you know he's dope. But
yeah, Jason Ronald, love the dude. I know they're working hard. They have a ton of people on that team, and I'm hoping that with this comes a big rollout. That maybe they've heard the feedback, and it's not going to be this iterative thing. It's going to be this big fresh rollout for that. I think that'd be great. That's my kind of hope. I don't know if that's the reality, but I would love to see a big kind of refresh of everything drop simultaneously and make it a big deal. Make it a big statement for the new experience on Xbox. Yep. All right, a few more super chats here. JD Gamer just absolutely killing it.
Killing it.
A JD Gamer would use Epic as an example of a big company. On the last point there, I know this is an Xbox podcast. But what 4 big titles could PlayStation deliver next year to compete with all that's available for Xbox to release?
Ragnarok is the biggest. Forspoken is probably going to get potentially delayed, so that'll be a thing.
Forspoken, Ragnarok, Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16. And they need one other like kind of super weird title. Like I don't know from any other studios that are being worked on yet that are like, I can't think of a game that's really in the mix yet that's not a potential like not a sequel for something else. Like I need something new to pop up, and I just they have done a not great job of forecasting. You know what I mean? Like a lot of their stuff is super locked down. We don't even know what the hell's happening unless you're like really on the inside circle. So
yeah, exactly. We have polar opposite strategies from Xbox and PlayStation when it comes to their schedules. We have Xbox who's letting you know, bam, this is what the next several years look like, and PlayStation's holding stuff really close.
D. Miller says Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, that's like Wolverine.
Wolverine, yeah, I want to see Wolverine. Yeah, but those aren't dropping next year. Like nowhere near.
I think one of them could. I could see Spider-Man.
I think.
I could see Spider-Man. Yeah. I also think they also have a couple high-profile remakes under their belt too. We know KOTOR officially announced that's going to be a PlayStation exclusive, and we know, or I shouldn't say we know, but it sounds like PlayStation might have exclusivity for Silent Hill 2 remake as well.
Also, they have PlayStation VR that's going to drop this year.
Oh yeah, they got PlayStation VR. I keep forgetting about that.
PSVR 2 is going to be the thing that I actually care about the most coming out of PlayStation, to be honest.
It'll be interesting. I would love a world where we just see, kind of like Nintendo last year. Nintendo last year, really slow schedule for releases. Yeah. A lot of big gaps. This year, their schedule is so stacked. They have so many things dropping this year, and I'm hoping that 2023 we see Xbox and PlayStation, making up for lost time and just saying, "Bam, here's our slate. Get ready. Every other month we're gonna have something worth playing." Because at the end of the day, like I'm just stoked to play some new games.
Yeah.
What else do we got here? Final question from JD Gamer. Xbox has been doing better this gen than last in Japan. Currently at roughly 205,000 more than Xbox One gen, just half under the OG Xbox. So how many units does Xbox Series X and S eventually sell in Japan? You got a guess for what Xbox Series X and S is going to end at in Japan?
In what year?
Just the gen.
In just the gen?
In the gen.
I mean, they'll sell less than 750,000.
Less than 750,000?
Yeah, I really just don't think they're gonna make a dent. Like again, I'll go back to what I talked about earlier in the show. Their play is cloud in Japan. You have the infrastructure from a technology standpoint, from a mobile device standpoint. That is the device of choice for most people who are playing games within Japan. Quadruple down on cloud in Japan, and you are in a much better position to get there in that way. Lucius Augustus says now they're already at 250K. Yeah, we're in May.
Year and a half-ish?
Yeah, so you're in May. So if you double that, you're already in October. And then you're at 500K. And then you have 2 more months to get another 200 and something thousand. That's the reason why I'm like, it's a reasonable number. It's like you under 750K.
I'm really curious to see if they can turn the momentum around, because there was decent momentum between even the OG Xbox launch. It wasn't stellar, but the fact that they came out as a new platform in Japan, they had a decent launch. And then Xbox 360, they crossed well over 1 million consoles. So I'm curious to see if this gen will get them back up over 1 million. I think that would be something to get excited about, and that would show that there's serious momentum for the platform.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll hit that this gen, but compared to Xbox One, I think it's only uphill. Like if we were in a scenario where they're doing worse than Xbox One, I don't even know. I think that would be the point where you're just
Gen. That's Gen. I'm thinking, Gen. Oh, well, Gen, yeah. Okay, fine. I'm thinking about towards the end of the year.
Oh, okay, yeah. This generation, I think.
This generation, they'll probably sell like 2 or 3 mil.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 mils is reasonable. But again, I think if we're thinking about what the gen is going to wind up being, and I also think the gen is going to be shorter than longer. I don't think we're going to have another 10-year gen in that way. I think we'll have another, because we're in year 3 of this gen?
We're in year 2.
November
of 2022, or when both these consoles came out. So
I think gens are going to get shorter. I think we'll have gens that'll last around 5 years to 7 years as opposed to 10. Before you get a new iteration of the hardware, right?
I think the chip shortage too really slowed this particular gen down.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to go that way, because the chip shortage, from what I'm hearing, people I know, is like we're going to be in this chip shortage for at least another 2.5 years, 3 years. So again, I think that's going to be a part of that conversation in a bigger way of like, how much does the actual chip shortage affect all of this to be able to get that way? Which again, tripling down on cloud makes more sense. Then you never have to worry about chip shortages. You can just get people to play stuff on things they already own.
They want to reach billions of gamers. You heard Phil Spencer say it.
Yep.
And as much, I'm a dirty console heathen, but I know deep down that's not the future of growth.
Nah. But America, get your infrastructure straight, then we can have better cloud.
Exactly. Stuff. Fix the middle of the country that just has terrible internet. Come on now.
Yep.
And a super chat from Spawn on Me podcast with Kahlief Adams.
Hey, that guy.
I need 1 versus 100 ASAP. Yo, where's that at? Two things that I'm flabbergasted don't exist right now. 1 versus 100 and the Netflix watch parties on Xbox.
Oh, imagine!
Remember that?
Back. Oh, imagine if they got the Netflix watch party. That was such a wonderful time in the space, man. That was like one of the best times ever. But I do think, people have been talking about like, so what is the Xbox going to be able to do to kind of like get people over the hump until we get to those bigger games? Man, I'm telling you, if they would have really just put some resources behind a 1v100 game, that would be the thing that would blow up. It would just be the thing that people would jump on, and it would be fire, because we have the technology to do it. Remember the garbage that we went through to play 1 versus 100 back in the day, and it worked really well for the most part. Now we have tech that actually like is really into this networked space where it's just a part of the ecosystem. You're not really thinking about it. You would have so many cool things you could do with 1v100 right now, and we still haven't.
Imagine the social event. You just have like a couple days, 2 days a week, where the whole squad, everyone is like, yo, 1 versus 100 is up. Let's go. You're calling your mom's hitting you up. Your uncle's hitting you up. Like, yo, we doing this? We getting in this? It's just something that anyone and everyone could play and stuff like that. It's, again, if for the hardcore gamer, maybe that's not enough, but for just the gaming enthusiast and just gaming as a whole, That is huge. The potential there is so huge.
Yep.
Come on, y'all.
Agreed.
And I'm hearing, what was the rumor? It's coming back as like a VR only thing or something. And I'm like, no. Don't put a barrier like that to something that everyone should be playing anywhere. You should be able to open your Xbox app. You should be able to open up your Xbox app and play something like that. Come on now.
Imagine just be on the train or something doing your commute, just pick up your phone and just jump in for a couple of rounds. What? Man, listen.
That's the world we should be living in, all right?
I agree.
Get us back to the good timeline. We had this divergence from 1 versus 100 and Xbox avatar parties to this other timeline, and we gotta get them back together here. All right, get them.
Please.
All right, Kahlief, that's gonna be it. We're gonna wrap up this show. Amazing, always amazing hanging out with you, man. Always have a blast. Have some fun. One more time for all of the amazing people who were hanging out with us live and listening on audio services. Where can they get a hold of you?
Well, first, I got to say thank you again for having me. It's always a blast to be on the show with you. You know I love you, fam. You know we get a chance to chop it up from now and again behind the scenes and talk about all this goodness. So it's always great to do it on the show with you. Chat, you are amazing as always, bringing in great energy and always being super welcoming. If you want to find out more of my work, go check out the Spawn on Me podcast with Kahlief Adams, because I am Kahlief Adams. You can check that out on all your podcast platforms around the net. Please give us a 5-star review if you're on Apple Podcasts. We need all the love that we can get. We drop new shows on Mondays morning. And you can check out the live show, the live recording on twitch.tv/SpawnOnMe at 6 p.m. PST every Wednesday evening. We're also doing our show. We're doing a live replay of our shows on YouTube, youtube.com/SpawnOnMe. So we're hoping to get some love over there as well. We're trying to do those every Monday. So you'll get the last show on Mondays on our YouTube channel, so that we don't get taken down from Twitch because we're partnered over there. And also you can check out, if you love football, I host a show called The People's Pregame that's all about the Fan Control Football League. If you're not familiar with that, it's a football league in which you call the plays and they run them in real time with real human beings. It's awesome. You can check that out on also podcast platforms and on NBCLX and Peacock TV. So you can check that stuff out. Every Thursday is when the audio show goes out, and every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. PST is where you can check the video version of the show. We just had Jamal Anderson on the show this weekend. We were talking to Rachel Lindsay last week. We had some stuff with T.O. on it. So yeah, we're hoping to now get Mike Vick on this show, because he just talked about wanting to join the league. So we're hoping to do some interviews with him very, very shortly as well. So lots of good stuff in the space. And lastly, really quick, we're doing a 12-part series sponsored by Epic called Something Epic. We just launched our Evil Dead video about the game and about the folks who are working on that for sure. So check out that stuff, give it some love, and I'll see you on Twitter at Kahlief Adams on that side of the fence too.
Yeah, show Kahlief some love. One of my favorite dudes. Always love having him on. Always love talking to him. Again, one of the people that I love and respect for our connection with horror. We can geek out about the Resident Evil Outbreak MMO on the last episode. We can geek out about gore physics and anatomy accurate physics in gaming. Again, when you're on, we talk about things that no other show would ever talk about, and that's why I love you. That's why I love having you on here. So show him some love. Huge shout out again to everyone who tunes in live, makes the show so much fun. Everyone in the chat, keeping it fun, keeping it respectful. I'm glad we can have these conversations, and everyone here can have a conversation and not make it ugly. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Take care.
Peace.
Peace.